Hello, hello, hello. It is RambleCasty time. How is everybody doing? I see some Austin in the chat room.
Hello.
I also see some Corbin in the video.
I'm here.
You are.
I forgot to tweet that I'm here, so I'll do that. And also, Mastodon post.
And I will go like both of them.
Thank you. I need that validation.
One of these days I need to actually set up a bookmark to my Mastodon. Well, I know I have one. I just need to... Hey, there it is. So, bookmarks to Twitter and Mastodon. So, I am ready to respond to both of these with haste.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
We're going to hit trending by doing this.
Yep. I'm using the hashtag too. I'm a fancy boy today.
Is that because of the shirt?
Google actually pay, well, I'm out of t-shirts at the moment, so I was gonna this is incidental. Actually probably need to move the clothes into the dryer now, but let's see. Cody tag. Okay.
Look at how much longer it takes to do anything on Mastodon.
Okay.
So yeah, anyway, for those that are listening now, you'll get to find out before anybody else. Today, bit of a hard out. I'm going to take off it'll be a little under 2 hours at this point, but yeah, aiming for what'll be 4:30 my time, 7:30 Eastern, and who knows when for everybody else in the world. People can do the math. I have faith in you.
Yes. Yeah, so I think Cody mostly had the idea to talk about Google I/O predictions. There's not a whole lot of other stuff happening at the moment.
And earlier you were like, no, I've got tons of stuff to talk about.
Well, I have like two things that are kind of funny.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I'll put my How to Geek article in the Discord.
Oh.
Yes. I finished this like right as the day was ending, and I figured no one would get to it until tomorrow morning, but they did, so it's all good. So this is kind of a fun thing. I didn't actually know anything about this before I was reading to cover this. But back in 1995, Microsoft made a app called 3D Movie Maker, which is not related to Windows Movie Maker, really. It was like a 3D animation tool for children, basically, and it's still got like kind of a following. Like on YouTube, every once in a while, you'll see someone like making memes or something with it, just because it's silly.
I can honestly say I have zero recollection of this.
Yeah, I didn't know about this, but I was like looking at YouTube, and there's there's a decent amount of like at least a lot of popular videos showing up that are made with this, which is equally impressive because you need a virtual machine to run this in. This
Oh God.
definitely does not run in modern Windows. And also it's historically important for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is actually the first thing that ever had Comic Sans. So Comic Sans was made for Microsoft Bob, but Bob wasn't ready yet, and this shipped first. So this was the first thing with Comic Sans in it. And also Microsoft sold a different version of this with Nickelodeon branding that had a lot of like objects and backgrounds and stuff from Nickelodeon shows at the time, so that was pretty popular. And also this has a 3D rendering library in it called B-Render, which was used in a bunch of other applications and games, and that library is not open source. And that library actually was made by Argonaut Software, which were the people that developed Star Fox on the SNES and made that Super FX chip that like every 3D game on the SNES used, because the SNES could not do that natively. You needed to put a chip on the cartridge for that. So there's like a lot of historical, cultural impact stuff here. And there's a lovely person on Twitter that goes by Foon. They do a lot of like weird tech hacky stuff, and they asked like they do a lot of like archival stuff a lot of the time, and they mentioned that they like tagged Microsoft in a bunch of tweets. I was like, hey, can we have the source code for 3D Movie Maker, please? And that got the ball rolling. So they had to, like all this stuff takes a lot more effort than you'd imagine to release in any form, especially because a lot of stuff like this, it has code from other companies like the B-Render thing, so you have to get legal clearance for all that stuff. But they did it. So on Tuesday, yesterday, Microsoft dumped the source code for 3D Movie Maker on GitHub. So it's on there. They said in the README it absolutely does not compile on modern operating systems or hardware, so it's not like working right now.
Nice.
But it's there, and the person who was trying to get that open sourced mentions they want to try to do a couple different projects with it. They want to make basically that, like, one of them is just to make it work on modern hardware, and that's it, like just to have a version of this that you don't need VirtualBox to play with. And then they also said they were going to try to add some features to it in a different fork, kind of like what we've seen with like the Doom and Quake engines, right? Like id Software released the code for those ages ago, and there's dozens of engines built on top of that have way more cool stuff in them. So that might happen here too. So it's kind of cool.
By the way, for reference, I briefly had a video playing, the one that you embedded in the article. I'd like to point out, if it looks choppy to anyone watching this, that is not because
that's how it looks. Yeah.
This is just how it is. It's not the stream performing poorly. It's not OBS doing anything funky. That's just how these videos look.
Yeah, which it makes it like it's such a good tool for like shit posting, because it just looks like total garbage.
Yeah, intentional.
Yeah.
You use this because you want something to look bad.
Yeah, or just for the hell of it, it's just funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of cool. And one thing that I saw Ars Technica mentioned, and also the Foon person, they said that a lot of the times you have like elements of a game or app that becomes open source, and that kind of makes it easier for other things based on that to also go open source. So the fact that that library is available now might mean that a lot of other games and stuff that use that are either they might be open source, or at the very least it's going to make porting those or like re-implementing their engines a lot easier. So there's potentially a lot of like opportunity for like historical software preservation here, just because this children's app from the mid 90s is open source now.
Yeah. Well, not only that, it can also in some rare instances re-inspire developers of old stuff to come back and be like, now that such and such thing has been updated, maybe I can do some quick updates to my thing and I don't want to say modernize it, certainly not modernize it, but make it viable to run in less similar environments than it did before.
Right.
At a bare minimum, a lot of times they can just recompile their old code with the new libraries and be like, hey, look, it works better now.
Yeah. And yeah, like Microsoft's done this a couple times with other things. They published the code for like MS-DOS 2.0, which that one is actually really only helpful for historical stuff, because you can't really do a lot with that.
No, you can't.
Like basically everything you would want DOS for, you need newer DOS. Mm-hmm. And we have free DOS now, so it's fine. We don't need that anymore. And they also open source the Windows File Manager from like 3.1, 3.0, and they put that on the Microsoft Store, which I love. It's on the App Store for Windows.
It's almost dickish, but
yeah,
it seems trollish to open source stuff that old and that outdated. Like, nobody cares. I mean, it's cool. Thanks for doing that, but no one really cares.
That one specifically is definitely like, okay, we just have this lying around and we don't really need to contact legal to do this. Whereas this, like, even if it's for really silly reasons, people do seem to use this still.
Okay, I would actually argue, you're gonna love this because I think you and I both know it's true. This is that whole thing where somebody at Microsoft is like, you know what? We take a lot of time to make sure that we don't lose this source code. Like, we are making a point of backing up servers. We're moving it around, doing all this stuff, maintaining it. And if we ever lose it, like, we lost it. It's gone. We don't have any way to cover it. So, hear me out. Let's just open source this crap because no one cares. Well, and then someone else will... Then we're not the only ones on the hook in case we lose it.
Well, keep in mind, Cody, that they own GitHub, so they're effectively holding the keys to most source code in the universe. Mm-hmm. But also, yeah, it's just, like, I'm sure it's a good way to get, good PR. It's just fun. So, sometimes these companies are not soulless entities.
Well, I still maintain that this is a relatively low bar for open sourcing stuff. I mean, when you take source code that's 20 years outdated, or at this point now we're at... It's not 30... Wait, is it 30 years outdated?
It's almost 30, yeah.
Yeah, it's closing in on 30. At this stage, I think it's fair to say, like, you have nothing to lose by open sourcing something from 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's usually the issue when you get stuff this old is that you don't know anymore who rights belong to.
Oh yeah.
Like this was probably easier because like Microsoft published this, so I'm gonna assume at the time they probably owned everything that wasn't that engine. But like I know that's one issue that keeps cropping up every time someone tries to make like a new, like, you know, those like retro console things that have a bunch of games built in for the Genesis or whatever. Like that's the issue those keep running into. Like they can't distribute a lot of the popular games from that time because they cannot track down who owns the game now. Because there's, you know, some dude in his garage made this really popular game, and who knows where he is now, and you know.
Well, and some companies have been bought and sold and like broken into little tiny partitions to be sold off again and again, and various IP goes one direction while ownership of the code goes a different direction. Oh yeah, that stuff happens a lot. I forget what franchise it was, but there was some old thing, I think from Sega, that it got kind of like a revitalized popularity something like 8 or 9 years ago, and no one could figure out who officially owned, not the source code. They could figure out who owned the source code, but they knew that the IP, like the actual ownership over the brand, had gone off in some other direction, and they still couldn't, after like 6 or 7 companies, they still couldn't figure out where it had gone to. All they could track is this company died, this company died, this company died, and it just kept getting passed over and over again. And so they weren't sure if they could ever republish the old versions of the game, but even if they got permission from the owner of the source code, they didn't think they could still republish the old copies. And even if they got permission from them, they weren't sure if there were other issues that would get in the way. Yeah, it, like, this kind of stuff is a problem. Also, going down to Scott Hanselman's comment, where he thanks Jeff Wilcox and the Microsoft OSS office. What strikes me is how what this reminds me of is when they took Windows Live Writer and open sourced that. That was like a 1.5-year process. Not because of getting permission, but because they had to rewrite like 3 or 4 major libraries, and then they had to also rewrite, or well, write for the first time, basically a workaround to the fact that they relied on, I think it was MS Office or something like, I think it was the MS Office source code, which was being used for the actual like text to render portion. And then like once they did that, it also was dependent on an old version of Internet Explorer, which they also had to work around. And so yeah, in making Open Live Writer, the open source version of Windows Live Writer, they had to fix like 3/4 of the app, and then unfortunately it worked like garbage. So you know,
that's the difference between like the historical archiving like this and that, where it's like they're not trying to make this, like they just dumped the code. They said in the description like, we took out some of like the developer comments and names just because we don't know if they'd be okay with their names being all over this.
And yeah, the comments, let's be honest, a lot of the comments are probably like, this effing thing does this, or there's variable names that are like
this goddamn button is broken, Jeff. Come on, get it together.
Yep. Oh, I'll tell you, any code that I've written that I don't ever want to get out, it is filled with some profanity.
Oh yeah, I have comments in one project I was working on that I was paid for, and I wrote like, this is a real big mess here, I'm sorry. Like in one part, because like I know what I was writing was terrible, but it was like the only realistic way to accomplish something. So it's like, I'm sorry whoever reads this that isn't me, like I don't know what to tell you. So
there was a company I worked at, this was very much my first official programming job. At a certain point, I noticed very quickly that the developer who worked on most of the code in this particular part of the project before me, he was bad. like legitimately a terrible programmer. Not that this needs to be a point, but let's just say he started as an accountant, then learned how to do Visual Basic for Excel. Like, this isn't even Visual Basic 6, this is VB4 Excel. And then from there, he just decided, I guess I'm a .NET developer too. He had no training, he had no idea what he was doing, he was really a bad developer. Anyway, he had written all this really, really bad code. And then I got hired and kind of got stuck with this code. I remember like 2 or 3 months into working here, at one point I was tasked with fixing this one large part of the project. And as I'm sitting there, the head of our department comes walking in and he's like, so I hear this project's taking a little longer than expected. And it's like, yeah, it definitely is, because whoever the hell worked on this code before me was kind of an idiot. And whoever it was, just F this up left and right. There's problems with this, there's problems with that. And the head of the department asked, so who worked on this before you? Like, who did this? And the guy I technically answer to raises his hand and goes, yeah, that was my code. And yeah, he eventually admitted, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing with this, so it's good somebody else is working on it. And
that's me anytime I look at something I did 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, what? Corbin from 6 months ago was a jackass.
If you don't look back on your old code and think, wow, that was terrible, you're doing something wrong. But anyway, I knew even back then, and this was back in the days when open sourcing stuff definitely wasn't as common, but I still had it in my mind, like, if this code for any reason ever gets open sourced, it's gonna look like I'm the person who wrote this terrible code. Because we weren't doing a good job of, like, maintaining kind of blame comments, so to speak. Like, you couldn't figure out who wrote what most of the time unless you went looking through the Visual Source Safe history, which you wouldn't know what Visual Source Safe is. It's early days of source control, but not as good as Git, and it was hard to tell who did what. So I made a point of putting in variable names that were not entirely appropriate. I made a point of leaving comments that were harsh and indicated that
var bitch fuck equals 1.
Yeah, basically. And I made a point of leaving comments that were like, whoever wrote such and such thing broke this, I'm fixing it with this. We should come back and actually rewrite this and make it good. Like, I left a lot of comments indicating, like, I don't want to be blamed for this being bad.
Yeah, that's what I imagine happens every time a company is like, yeah, we're working on open sourcing this thing. We've got to clean up the code first. I think that's probably what's happening.
Yeah, well, to this day, I do wonder whatever happened with this other contract job I had. I was given 6 weeks to do way more than what should have been possible in 6 weeks. And originally that code was all going to be private. And then I found out later that they were showing a whole lot of it to Microsoft. And there was even a little bit of theoretical talk after I left about open sourcing a few things. And it's like, oh shit. Please don't put my name on this. Like, I want credit for the crazy amount of stuff I accomplished. I don't want credit for writing this code because it is janky.
Right.
Yeah. There was a lot of very magical code in that.
And speaking of janky code, Google I/O.
Oh my god, perfect transition.
Right? That doesn't often happen for me. But yeah, so Google I/O is next week.
It is.
This is like
a week from today, in fact.
One of Google's 2 main events every year. The other one being whenever the Pixel hardware event is each year. That varies.
Okay, I'm inclined to argue just slightly to say the Web Developer Summit and maybe even the Game Developer Summit. I think those are also pretty significant. We just don't talk about them as much in our circles.
Yeah, there's not a lot that like I pay somewhat close attention to the web dev summits because like it's
Obviously.
kind of like it's kind of like me where the only like esport matches I watch are Overwatch because I actually know what's going on a little in the very slightest. I'm like I understand what's happening here sort of, and it's never like there's never like new announcements. It's kind of just like what Google I/O's main purpose is, where it's like just getting all the devs in a room to talk to each other and figure out stuff, and like go over recent stuff because like not everyone is covering news for a living. Their job is something else, so it's good to have these like roundups every now and then.
Yeah, and it's also really good for the world that most people's job is not covering news.
Yes. Yeah, so they do have a program already on their website that I was taking a quick look at.
Well, as it turns out, XDA even has a short rundown of the schedule. At least the notable stuff. I'll even drop that link into chat. What strikes me is how much none of this really indicates what they're announcing. Like, there are a couple of things. Very notably, there are a couple of things, like the privacy sandbox. Let's see. The thing that... I know things, but I can't say all things. But it is mentioned here, a path to a world without passwords. Cough, cough. You may hear more about that in the near future. Yeah, that's pretty clearly going to be a topic.
I am curious about the privacy sandbox stuff because that was announced, or not announced, but like the first developer build of privacy sandbox for Android was last week, I believe. Which that one completely went over my head. I didn't know they had already talked about that. I just had to write the news that the beta was coming. I was like, they're putting what in Android now? The thing that they're like barely started to test in Chrome that everyone hated the first version of. Okay.
Yep.
We're doing good stuff here.
Yeah, and they really, man, their name changes and explanations for this stuff are not good.
Yeah, like the old
too
thing. The old thing that was called privacy sandbox, everyone hated. Like it was like not even hated, but like it was actually terrible because it allowed really specific like Facebook does, where they make it really easy to figure out who you are, sort of based on what categories of ads they can target to you. The new version, as I understand it, is a lot better at that, but it's still targeted advertising on the client side, which I don't like targeted advertising at all. I know it's what like makes it possible for me to work and do this job, really, because there would be far less money in this industry if that didn't exist. But I still really don't like it. And like on a technical level, I guess it's better that the targeted ad data isn't really leaving my computer, but I do still wish all of this would just go away.
You know, one of these days we should actually, I'm not suggesting this today, I'd rather not today, in fact, but one of these days we actually should have a conversation about targeted advertising specifically, because I'm not opposed to the idea of targeted advertising. In fact, I think it's a good thing in general, but the privacy issues that come with it are the problem. I like the idea of having advertisements that at least are relevant to me. Go ahead, put something useful to me on a screen, but there's a certain point in which it ceases to be okay, and that's where the privacy invasion part comes in. Like I don't need advertisements for I'll just use the obvious feminine hygiene products.
Right.
It's not a thing I need to go buy. And
Right.
likewise, there are products for men that women generally don't need to buy.
Right.
Yeah, it's common sense. We don't all need the same ads. So I'm okay with targeted advertising, it or at least generally aimed advertising. But
I think I've just completely jaded to the topic. I hate every company in that space.
fair
Like
enough.
I don't really think you can do ethical targeted advertising. I think that might be an oxymoron.
Okay, well,
Um,
no one said ethics
yeah.
were exactly a high point here.
Yeah, yeah. It's a big like, no ethical consumption under capitalism moment. But
Yeah, I mean, for
yeah.
what it's worth, oh man, if we're talking ethics, there are so many other industries that are pretty sketch too. In fact, looking back, I'm not sure I can think of too many industries I've ever worked in that were ethical.
Cody previously worked as a assassin and a drug dealer.
So it's funny you say that. No, wait for it. Depending on who you listen to, those would actually be entirely true statements, because it used to be my job to give poison to people. I
I
worked as a
see.
bartender and at a winery. I served poison to people. They asked for it. I gave them poison. So
Well, they were asking for it, so it's fine.
they were asking for it. Wow, words that I won't get canceled for, obviously. Oh,
The
dark
Cody,
times.
they were asking for it, Tombs.
Oh, jeez, that's gonna follow me.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, usually these I think they might have caught on. Usually these programs have like a little snippet of like something they haven't talked about yet. Or that they're gonna talk more about something that like they haven't announced yet. But there's not a whole lot in here. Again, mostly just the usual mix of like, here's how to use this library we made like 8 months ago.
Yeah,
I see a lot of smart home stuff in here. I see
I do
there's a
see AR and
couple.
VR stuff, which could could be relevant, but I kind of don't have a lot of faith in that.
Yeah,
Especially because they only list 4 sessions.
I'm
That could grow a
so
lot though.
yeah. I'm so mad still that they killed Daydream. Like I'll never get a. I might need to write an article about that or something to put it into words. But like, because like I see everything that Facebook. I'm not gonna call them Meta. They're stupid. I see
Agreed.
everything that Facebook's doing with like the Quest, like the Quest Go. I forget what the standalone one. I don't know. I don't. Whatever the standalone one is, where you have like a lot of really cool games that don't need any extra hardware and they're just plug and play and they work pretty well. But you have to buy Facebook stuff, and all of that needs a Facebook account. So
Mhm.
all that data is getting funneled to who knows where. So I'm not going to ever buy that. Well, I say ever, but I don't see myself ever buying that. But I want something like that. And Google was basically there. They had a standalone VR system. Um, they made one. They had one dedicated headset that they made with, I think, Lenovo. Um, that was just fully like it was the Oculus thing, but a few years before the latest generation came out. And there were games for it. I remember the YouTube app in Daydream was pretty cool. There were a couple other really nice apps, and they just didn't do anything after that point.
Yeah.
That standalone one, like, it was never sold to normal people, really. Like, you could buy it, but it wasn't like marketed at all.
Yeah,
It was like
honestly,
a developer
I'd
thing.
forgotten it came out
Yeah,
technically.
yeah, and and then eventually Google stopped certifying new phones for Daydream and then killed it. So I'm very mad, because if Google had just stayed at that same level, honestly, they like I could just buy that instead and get all the same. Because the Quest, it's still Android. Facebook was trying to make its industry reports say that Facebook was trying to make its own operating system for these things. Even when they say their own operating system, I'm sure it still would have been like an Android fork, or a fork of, like it's probably some Linux build. But like, so all the Oculus games showing up now are running on Android. They just, are not built for Google services. So if Google had stayed up to date at all, it would have been really easy for devs to bring their Oculus games to Daydream, and then we would have had actual competition. But that's just not happening. I'm upset. I'm still upset about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see some Flutter stuff. I want to try to make something with Flutter eventually. It's very cool.
Yeah, I want to mess with Flutter too.
Yeah. I've only messed with Dart, really. I did look. I was toying with the idea of rewriting PhotoStack in Flutter at one point, because the current code is not good. But that doesn't like really need to be a native app for any reason, and Flutter still is not that good in the web, so that's not the right tool for that job.
Not yet, at least. And
no, if I need,
judging by the way they're moving, I kind of have a feeling that web is really low on their priority list.
Yeah, it still seems like a lot of the features are going into like the Android and iOS side of things. I think that's probably where most of the dev interest is, because on the web you already have a lot of platforms like this.
Yeah, though it is funny to note that they do have a session called Web Apps with Flutter, a love letter to modern browsers. So, well, they're at least paying lip service to it.
Okay. I remember also one of my issues with Flutter on the web is when I tried it in Firefox, it was just unbearably laggy. Like it was really bad. I don't know if they fixed that, but
well, I have a feeling it's probably using a lot of APIs that were done really for Chrome, and while they probably would work with or they obviously do work with Firefox, I get the impression that that was not a high concern or priority for them.
No, never is anymore. No one tests their sites in Firefox.
By the way,
I did.
Hello to whoa, what the hell? Oh, that was weird.
Hello to what the hell?
Sorry. Thanks hello to Diablo. Long time no see, buddy. Good having you back, or having you around.
Hi, Diablo.
Sorry, the mixed reaction came from the fact that I looked, my phone screen came on, and all of a sudden it connected to a spam caller. Like, not even... No. When I say connected, I mean it was on the actual... The phone line was live to a spam caller. I don't know why that was. I think...
First time caller, long time listener, spam number.
Yeah. I think it may have been because I had a phone sitting on top of this, and maybe the capacitive screen just barely picked up on it, but
yeah,
I have no idea. I'm concerned about that, though, in the offhand chance that was oh, I can't think of the name of it, but Google's thing that screens your calls. Some part of me is wondering if maybe it like auto-connected or something.
Mm-hmm. I see a couple of stuff about progressive web apps in here. I definitely would like to watch those. I don't, again, like there's never like really new stuff with web and Chrome stuff, because like Chrome is open source, so anything in the works like just shows up.
Yeah.
And also like a lot of this is web standards that like is transparent on purpose, because at least for now Google is interested in what Mozilla and Microsoft and Apple have to say about new web APIs. So anytime someone has a new API idea, there's like actual discussion taking place about what it should work like.
Yeah.
We'll see if that's still the case in 5 years. But
that being said, and I'm not saying that this is going to be that good of a thing, but I notice a session titled Bringing Adobe's Creative Cloud to the Web, starting with Photoshop. I'm sure that that's more of a, like, here's how we did it, and we used such and such Google technology to make it happen, blah, blah, blah. But
there might be a little nugget of them teasing something in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
maybe.
I've sat in on a lot of pre-briefs from Adobe over the last, like, 3 years, which has been a painful process because every single time they're like, oh no, we definitely have something you're going to care about as an Android site. And then I sit in on the pre-brief, there's nothing. Like a hard blank nothing. It's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm totally good listening to. I'm perfectly happy listening to it, but don't sell me on showing up when you got nothing to show me. And then sure enough, on announcement day, on the actual like thing go public day, they reveal the part that actually has to do with Android. And it's like, guys,
yeah,
why are you doing this?
Yeah, I had that moment to a much lesser extent with Firefox this week, where they sent me while I was at XDA and How To Geek embargo information for the new version of Firefox 100, and they mentioned like a lot, like some of the cool stuff that's in the update. Like there was some like picture-in-picture stuff, but I was like, there's probably like a couple things in here that they didn't mention because it's a draft of a blog post. And I went and looked at the release notes, and they didn't have them up yet. And I didn't think to check the beta release notes, which just carries over to the stable release. So that's something I need to remember for next time. But sure enough, the embargo goes live, and then I check the release notes, and there's like a lot of cool stuff they just didn't mention. Like they have like hardware accelerated AV1 playback now, which seems really important.
Yeah.
They have like and like that's like kind of technical. Like I understand why like average person might not care about that, but they also added HDR support on the Mac, which does seem pretty important.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why didn't you put this in the blog post, guys? You're talking about like background images on the new tab page in the Android browser.
Yeah.
You guys got hardware accelerated AV1 encoding. This matters.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of those things that has a direct correlation to, guess what? If you're watching video on the web and it's encoded this way, you get better battery life. Yay!
Oh yeah.
This is directly relatable to people. Honestly, if any person can be told you get better battery life, just there's your headline moment right there for most normal people. I mean, it doesn't make good like news website headlines to say, oh, better battery life. Okay, great. But for regular people, if you tell them, hey, by the way, this update is going to make your battery life better on your Mac, yeah, please give me more. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
it's exciting stuff for that person.
I'll go. There's like a couple different chains of comments in the chat. I'll try to associate which one goes to which. Yeah,
I was reading through them too.
I think Diablo said, okay, wait. I'm just gonna start. Diablo said, I wonder why more developers do not take advantage of all the goodies of progressive web apps. Like for Amazon, I stopped using their app and just used the website. So that definitely bypasses the Play Store billing. I think the thing with progressive web apps is just that they're not really ever gonna this is the thing, they're not really built to replace a native app in most cases. They're just built to make the website closer to that. Because like also like one of the main reasons why this stuff matters for businesses is when you're trying to get user engagement or to drive a sale or something, the more hoops and more clicks you make someone go through, that like drops the percentage of people who will make it all the way to, you know, the checkout page if you're a store, or the end of a video if you're a video player, whatever. And when you make a less frustrating website that works more like an app, like how people expect apps to work, then you get much better engagement and users. Like every time Google's done a blog post about progressive web apps, they always include some anecdote from a major retailer or whatever, and they always go like, yeah, our sales jumped 20% on mobile or whatever when we made it a PWA. So they like I see websites implementing this stuff where it makes sense. I think a lot of also the thing with progressive web apps is like they kind of just bleed into normal websites. So like I saw this confusion. There was I was looking at the Firefox subreddit, and there was a thread where people were asking why doesn't Firefox support progressive web apps, because Firefox doesn't have the thing where you can click a button and like make a web app, like add it to the dock on Mac or the start menu on Windows or whatever, like Chrome does. And there were like a bunch of people who were like, yeah, like PWs are really important, they need to support them, but like Firefox supports all the APIs. They just don't have that last layer on top that lets you install them. Because like a lot of the APIs and stuff that you kind of associate with PWs, that's just like there's no line in the sand that says this is for websites and this is for web apps. They're just all the same thing. Like every website with push notification support, and that's kind of like makes them a PWA because you need a service worker running in the background to send those notifications. So there's a lot of overlap. I think for the most part, sites are implementing it where it makes sense. And yeah. So Diablo said, "Is there a reason Firefox did not take the step?" They did a very long time ago. They had an early version of like installing web apps, but it was tied to the they used to have a Firefox store that had web apps that you could install for both Firefox and Firefox OS. And when Firefox OS died and they killed off that store, they also ripped out a lot of the app code because it was all tied together and it was kind of a mess and didn't work that well.
Yeah.
So they just never went back and did that from scratch. And I think they've said that like there's not a whole lot of demand for that. Google says that like PWA installs on desktops went up dramatically in the past year or two. So I don't know if that would necessarily be the case for Firefox anymore, but I don't know. The people that use Firefox aren't the same group of people who use Chrome all the time. So
yeah,
they're going to want different things. I'm sure Firefox would rather use their more limited resources on just like keeping up with Chrome.
Yeah. I'm a little skeptical about the claim that PWA installs were rising that substantially. I'm kind of wondering if that's more of like a side effect.
I think that's mostly like just the starting point being so low, probably.
Yeah. Well,
right, like
low starting point, but also I think a lot of it's probably maybe coming out of like the education sector where they probably are helping or pushing certain projects to be done as PWAs, and then as a result they end up getting installed on a lot of Chromebooks. Also because a lot of students are now getting back to the schools and they're distributing the Chromebooks in heavy numbers again. Like this is causing kind of a natural, like, it seems like PWAs are on the rise when in reality it's just sort of business as usual. It's just a theory. I could be way off, but I can see how that would really impact numbers.
Yeah. So yeah, like I see a lot of, there are definitely still websites that you can tell they're like really zoning in on making a really good PWA. Like I think Twitter is still the best example, where if you install their PWA on the desktop or mobile, it's really hard to tell the difference between that and the native app. Like I can really only tell when I'm like scrolling or like I accidentally select text in like some UI element that you're not supposed to select text in. They did a really good job. So yeah, there's a lot of web app talks in IO. There's a lot of Flutter stuff. I will watch those definitely. There's a lot of Where also, which was kind of the main concern before last year. I remember, what was it, last year, the year before, where the fact that there was like one event for Where got everyone excited. Like they remembered it existed.
Wait, what do you mean there's a lot of where? I have one item on here.
Oh, wait, what was that? Okay, I think I think this is my issue with all the Google logos looking the same. I was scrolling through the program list, and there's a lot of logos with the same colors.
Yeah. No, it's...
Okay, so there's one for Where.
There's probably... Here's the thing, and it's amazing how many times I've actually had to, like, hard explain this to people who were literally sitting in rooms at I.O. with me. When you go to I.O., one of the very first things you need to understand, and looking at these lists in advance, and I know you know this, but I'm just saying it for anyone who's listening, they will suddenly, last second, like during the keynote, this list of things will suddenly double. Whatever they have listed in their topics, count on there being a whole bunch more added to it.
Right.
Not saying necessarily that Wear OS is going to get any big thing. Wait, and is Wear OS still the name?
Yes, it's officially Wear OS by Google.
Okay. For some reason, I thought they were dropping the OS, or were they just dropping or adding a space? I know that
think that
with Chrome.
No, it's still officially Wear OS by
Okay.
Google. I've seen some of them just say Wear, but like I think it's like a Material 2.0 versus whatever, where like it's just a shorter name. I don't need to say OS every time.
Right. Okay, but anyway, yeah. So right now they have one thing listed. I have a funny feeling that they're probably going to stack a couple more things on here just as sort of a guess what, Wear OS 3 is a thing, and we also want to tell you about what's new.
Right.
Though maybe they won't, and that's that also, honestly I would consider it very concerning if this list doesn't grow.
And also I'm gonna assume that most of these they're not being filmed anytime near now. Like this is all like pre-recorded videos like last. I know there's gonna be some people at IO, but like I don't think they're filming anything there.
Nope.
So there's this could be the final program, but then we just get more videos on the Android channel over the next 2 to 3 months.
Well, that's going to happen no matter what. But what I meant is, well, okay, there are a few things to unpack here. Really quick as a first note, we still don't know for sure if the keynote is pre-recorded or not, because they are having people attending I/O. There are certainly a lot of reasons to theorize that they're going to do an actual live recording of the keynote, but then as soon as the keynote ends, they're going to suddenly dump, well, all this stuff's already uploaded, but they will suddenly make public all of these video sessions for their entire schedule. Though, that being said, they have times listed for their schedules. So, like the Wear OS thing is day 2 at 9 a.m. I'm wondering if that's like, for people in attendance, you can come see a session, or if they're actually going to record those sessions and put them live. I don't know that. But that being said,
they just have a big room with like a popcorn machine and a projector. They come and watch the YouTube videos.
So basically every high school in the nation.
Yeah, it's movie night, guys. Come on. Come learn about Firebase. Come on.
God. I remember high school doing that so much. I almost miss those days. Like, show up and it's like, we're gonna watch a movie today, and the next time you're in class, just part 1 and part 2. And yeah, everyone would just be like, oh, thank God, this is the good day. This is the day we want to be here.
Yeah, teacher rolled out the TV cart with the VHS player.
Yes. Oh God. Okay, that was the painful part. As everyone's People in the back of the room were like, okay, cool. I just can't see crap. Because that little TV was like 12-inch.
Oh, yeah. It was trying.
Yeah, it didn't try hard enough. But yeah, anyway. So, we don't know. We really don't know how much pre-recorded versus live recorded we're going to get. But what I meant is whatever they say on this schedule, there will very likely be things added. And those will be like during IO, there will be probably, I'm hoping that there's at least one What's New in Wear OS session that just gets added at the last minute. Though the What's New sessions usually weren't added at the last second. Those were almost always, they were there and they just had sort of vague descriptions. And then it would be some other thing where the title gave something away. That's the stuff that usually got added later. So I'm kind of skeptical about this one. That it worries me a bit that they aren't hyping up Wear OS 3 in any way, shape, or form right here.
Well, I remember they had at least a few things last year, and there hasn't really been anything new. Until they like actually start rolling it out to more watches, I guess there's not really anything left to say. I don't know if they have like new Google Play APIs that like really need to be in Wear OS. I don't know if that's a problem. I don't make Wear apps.
I have, and though I was making them like late days of 1, early days of 2. I don't think I really tried doing anything with Wear after like probably the first 6 months of 2 would be my guess. I don't know. It's been so long I don't quite remember, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if you're about to release a watch that everybody knows is coming, at least jam in a couple sessions and hype up stuff, or even just give people like a how to get started with Wear development session, like something to motivate. And if they don't have that, that's not a great way to kick it off.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I was also looking through the program, and I had like a brief moment of confusion because there's a few events on here for Angular, the Google's web framework, and I thought that was dead. I thought they discontinued that. But apparently the original version that I was familiar with, that like predated Flutter and everything, that was killed off. But there's like a newer version that apparently they still work on. So that's interesting. I might have to look into that. But yeah, there's some talks about Flutter, not Flutter, Angular.
Yeah, 4 different sessions, including an introduction.
4 times more than Wear.
Yeah, that is quite a bit for a ostensibly dead framework.
Yeah, I don't know how many people actually use Angular. I'm not sure, because I know like web apps at this point, there's like a million different frameworks, but the one that Facebook made is still React. React is still kind of the main one if you're making a responsive web app and you're not making it in like a non-JavaScript language. Diablo said, wait, is Angular something new? No, Angular, it's just another like responsive web. It's only for web. It's just a way to make web applications that have like a lot of different UI elements that need to go in and out, instead of like, writing them all as HTML and then just showing them when they're needed, which is really janky. But I thought it's been around for a really long time, and I thought it was dead because I saw, like a lot of Google's initial really good web apps were Angular with their material design library, and they eventually started moving that off to other stuff and discontinued the material design. So I thought it was dead, but apparently not. They just killed the first version of it.
Well, that might be for the best. One of these days, I actually need to look into React again.
Yeah, I really need to, because I've not played with like any responsive, like I forget what the term for it is, but like where you're defining the UI in code instead of HTML or like an XML.
Well, declarative.
Yeah, declarative. Yeah, I've just never really had a need for that, and I don't like really need to add more stuff to my PhotoStack web app at this point. So like I'm not like, you know, desperate to rewrite it or anything, but it'd be a good learning experience, I guess.
But you'll do it just cause.
I'll do it just cause. Like I kind of wanted to rewrite it in Flutter because I'm now familiar with Dart, but as stated previously, Flutter on the web is still iffy. And I don't really have any interest in compiling PhotoStack for like 5 different platforms.
Yet.
And of course, paying Apple for the privilege of running it on Mac OS.
Oh, I'm not even going to touch that. Though, let's see. Oh, yeah. One thing that's kind of funny about that, if you look, they even have, I guess, okay, they're all Flutter sessions, but I was going to say they actually had the topic of iOS. But they're all Flutter related, so I guess that's fair. I won't judge too harshly on that one.
Diablo asked if there's anything about Android TV or Google TV. There is. There is
Smart Home.
Yes. On day 2, there is what's new with Android TV and Google TV, and the only description is learn what's new in Android TV OS, including new features and tools to make developing apps for TVs faster and easier.
And I don't... the 2 speakers, there's Paul, and I'm not trying to say their last names. Sorry guys, but just not happening. Paul, I don't believe I recognize. I kind of remember Shobana. I think she was... I want to say she may have been on stage at a previous keynote, so there might be something fairly significant here. However, the fact that they only mention one session that is Android TV and Google TV related, and it's just a what's new, I'm a little skeptical that this might be more of a... Unless they add sessions. But I'm a little skeptical that they might just kind of be doing a, hey, developers, here's what we're doing that's changing the platform, and all the APIs that you're already using, you're just going to keep using them, but this is going to change how things show up, like, on the home screen, or it's going to change how things show up in recommendations. So just be ready, because that stuff's happening in the coming months. Trademark.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff that has been going into, like, there's nothing going into Android TV. It's just getting, whatever new APIs show up in normal Android at some point. Like, it always takes forever. But Google TV specifically is just Google doing stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not really there's like the one thing where the new home screen on Google TV, like, apps can like make content available for that it can pull from, but besides that, like, it's all just like Google's interface, and it plugs into Google services. So there's not a lot for like, hey developers, here's stuff you can mess with. It's like it's just there, guys,
which is kind of what I was saying of, like, this is you'll use the same APIs, but we're gonna do things with that data that's different than what you are already doing. Like, it's changes to the things that you're used to, but that's about it. And seeing as this isn't like, when most developers are thinking about how APIs work, it's usually a very deterministic thing of like, I'm going to show a notification. Well, notifications show up a certain way. The APIs say that you can format it like this, you can do this kind of thing with your notification. It's going to show up with these particular elements. Like, these are things that you know and can expect. With Android TV and Google TV, what your APIs with the system do for the most part is, or at least what they care about, what they're going to be talking about is, like, hey, we want you, like, developers, we want you tell us what stuff you're recommending people watch, and we'll take that data and do something with it. And what we do with it, you don't really know or control. But, you know, we're going to be friendly about it. We're going to tell you what we're going to do, but, you know, we're still going to be the last line that does something with this data. So it is a less deterministic thing. You don't have like a clear path to the user. Rather, you're just giving data to Google Assistant, really, and then Assistant figures, well, we kind of think that the user's going to want to see this, so we're going to give this priority. Or we're only going to show 3 of your suggestions, or we're going to mix your suggestions with other app suggestions, stuff like that. So you don't have that control, they do. Mm-hmm. Which, all right, that's their platform, whatever.
Yeah. I also see there's one here for what's new in Google Pay, and I'm mildly curious about that because they're supposed to be doing something with Pay, because the whole new version written in Flutter or whatever that they made for India is not like the best. So I curious to see what that is about.
Actually, I'm surprised they have 6 sessions relating to passes. Or sorry, payments. Though I notice what's new for Google Pay passes. That's interesting.
Yeah, I guess maybe they'll talk about the well, I don't know if that goes in Pay, but wherever driver's licenses are supposed to go in Android whenever that shows up.
I could be wrong, but I don't think that's a developer or developer-facing feature. I think that's something they're just adding to Android, and Google is doing all the development on it. I could be wrong on that.
Right. Also, wasn't I think it was 9 to 5 that leaked that Google Pay is supposed to be going back to wallet. So maybe they'll talk about that, I guess. I don't know.
My understanding is Google Pay, and in terms of the actual like payments stuff, is going to remain Google Pay. Like branding wise, that will still be Google Pay. But presumably they are adding back a Google Wallet thing that is for all of your other stuff, like ID cards and membership cards and whatever else. So we'll see.
This branding.
I'm okay with that one. That one makes sense to me.
Because it was the original.
Well, right, but
it was fine from the start.
I mean, if you're paying for things, Google Pay is a logical name, and for storing other things, Google Wallet is a logical thing. Yeah. I feel like this branding is finally the thing that they need to stick with, because once they introduce Google Wallet, stop, just keep everything the way it is, because you're perfect. It has taken... Are we at almost 15 years since the first... it probably isn't quite that long, but we're at least a decade of them goofing around with different branding and naming and everything else. We're finally there. It took a decade, but we're finally about to be where we should be. Please, let's stay there. I'm okay.
They're gonna do... Yeah, they're gonna ruin it somehow. They're gonna 100%. They're gonna rename it again in 2 years to like, I don't, something terrible, or the new Google Pay will have like buying Bitcoin in it for some reason. Like basically everything else that processes money.
No, they're gonna name it Batua. It'll be Google Batua, which is, by the way, the Hindi word for wallet.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah, I googled it. Let's see, Austin. By the way, you weren't going for this, but I know that this is the inevitable topic. It just has to be brought up. You said needs messaging support. I'm just gonna say it. I predict no RCS talk at not even a session. Like, I mean, I don't even think they're gonna mention it during the keynote. Nothing about RCS. That's my prediction right now.
Bold prediction.
Yeah,
because they have been making a stink in the past few months that Apple won't support it, and they could make another stink again here, but I at the very least, I think you're right that there's not going to be any news.
Yeah.
They might, like, I could see them dunking on Apple again.
Okay, and I do
Um,
want to throw in, if it's literally like a one sentence dunk, that doesn't
right,
count. If it's
right.
literally just like the middle finger and then moving straight on, that does not count. That's not like, I'm saying there has to be like an actual
they make a
meaningful
green
announcement.
bubble joke. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's just a dumb green bubble joke, exactly, then I'm not counting that. But if they have any real announcement of like, hey, we're moving forward with something, or we're gonna do something, or we're adding a feature, we're anything like that, okay, then I'm wrong. But I bet they don't have anything.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens, because last I/O was pretty big. Like we got the complete overhaul of Wear. I think, I don't know if that's when they talked more about Google TV or not. I'd have to go back and check, but Wear was definitely the big thing. Let's see. I/O 2021 recap. Thank you, and XDA developers.
You know, the other thing that strikes me about just looking at this topic list, and another reason I'm so confident Wear is going to get more sessions, or I'm not confident, but I feel strongly that that's likely. Most of these topics have more than one item in them, except Wear. Wear is the only one, or one of the few at least, that only has a single thing when you look at its topic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even location maps has 3 things.
Oh yeah. Last year's I/O was also when they showed off Material U for the first time. That was the other big thing. So, yeah, I mean, last year was pretty big. So this year, presumably more updates on everything they've listed in the show notes. How are you feeling about possible Pixel talk here?
Okay.
Because the Pixel Watch has been leaked to high heaven, and I don't think we've seen a Pixel 6a in the wild yet, but that's usually happens somewhere around, the release schedule's all over the place, but it's expected soon.
Okay, so I'm going to break this into actually 3, even though one of them's not really a Pixel subject. But Pixel Watch, just starting with that, my theory, I still hold to this, I think they are probably going to either tease it or pre-announce it or something, but I do not think that they're going to launch it. It will not be for sale in the next, like, month.
Okay.
But I'm split decision on whether or not they will pre-announce. When I say I think they will, I'm what I mean to say is I think there's like 50-50 odds. Like, they might pre-announce it, or they might wait until they launch it, and if they launch it, it's going to be alongside the Pixel 7. So that's my theory. Where do you feel on this?
Say that last part again, because Windows gave me a notification and it completely shut off my brain. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So I think there's a chance that they will pre-announce the watch, and it won't go on sale until the Pixel 7 event, or they might just wait until the Pixel 7 event this fall, at which point then they'll just announce it and put it on sale basically at the same time. That's my theory.
Okay.
Where do you feel?
I mean, I could see them doing anything really, because they've done both, right? They've done the thing where they've like shown off a product for the first time at I/O, but then they don't really say anything about it, and you have to wait like 4 more months. They did that with one of the smart speakers. I forget which. It might have been the original
Yeah,
Google
they
Home.
did do it with the Google Home. I honestly forgot about that. Um, this isn't technically a hardware product, but they definitely did it with like Allo and Duo. The thing is, a lot of Google I/O announcements, in fact, a bewildering portion of them are sort of pre-announcements of things that are coming in the following months.
Yeah, and Google's definitely been more eager to do that recently. Like there was the whole thing during the Pixel 6 rumor cycle where they got ahead of everyone else and dumped, device renders, which was very smart because then when every website reported on Pixel 6 rumors for the next 6 months, they used that very nice photo that Google provided instead of, blurry mess or, a 3D render that might not actually be the phone. So yeah, I could see them doing that. I could also see them launching it or dumping all the info about it, and then it shows up at stores like a week or two later, like most Apple events, because they did that for at least the Pixel 3a. I don't know if they did that for. I don't think they did that for later Pixels or not, but yeah, I could see them doing that for both. Either way, I mean.
Okay, so you're saying that you think the 6A is coming at I/O or no? I'm not sure.
I mean I don't. The thing with the A series that Google's never had
they don't have
a pattern.
Yeah,
so like I don't know. They could do anything, right? Like they could mention it and then it doesn't come out until December. Like that's equally possible in my mind. So
the thing that's so tough with the Pixel A series is the 3A, the first of the A series, came out and it seemed like that was going to be a start of a pattern for them. And then the following year, the 4A kind of gets thrown off by a pandemic. And then the following year, the 5A is almost like this forgotten phone. And now we're about to hit 6A and it's like, okay, what's happening now? We don't even know anymore. So
yeah, and Austin said the 6A already hit the FCC. He said he thinks it will definitely be announced at I/O.
Yeah,
making some bold predictions here.
The thing is, I kind of agree, and it's not for the reasons that it should be, but I'm looking at it like this. If they release a 6A with I/O, that is a great time to do it. If they wait any longer, then the 6A is going to be butting up against the 7. And they, just strategically speaking, it is so much better to get that phone out and give it some breathing room. Because otherwise, you have a situation like the Pixel 5A where everyone forgot that phone happened. I mean, obviously some people are aware of it, but it was so easily ignored because it was too close.
Yeah, well, I mean, a more recent example was everyone was hyped up for another Galaxy Fan Edition phone, and then Samsung only released the S21 FE in January, which was less than a month before the S22 came out, and then no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
Especially because it's a Samsung, the base S22 dropped to the MSRP of the Fan Edition within a month. So it's like, why? Like I even said that in my review, like there's not really a reason for anyone to buy this. I don't know why they did this.
Yeah. At
least, well, in that case, like what everyone assumed was happening was nonsense with the silicon shortages. They didn't have enough parts or whatever. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was. They probably should have just canned it.
Yeah.
Or made it much cheaper to start with. I know now it's like $500, like it's like sits at $600, which is pretty good, I guess. But it wasn't that when it launched. But everyone's doing that, so it's fine.
Yeah. So I'm leaning pretty strongly towards the 6A being announced and sold within a couple weeks of I/O, if not right away. Because again, it just makes It makes sense. And I will say this, if they don't do that, I think they're making a mistake. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Though, you bring up the perfectly valid point. Normally, we would have seen pictures of this thing in the wild by now.
Yeah, fell off a truck, right?
But hey, maybe it's because it's a less interesting phone. Like, maybe there almost were pictures and then, like, it just didn't happen. Or maybe they weren't trying to hype it. Or maybe they closed up some of their leak points so that this never happened. There are possibilities that explain it. We don't know.
Yeah. Diablo said, will everyone pick up day one? Are you ready to buy a Pixel Watch, Cody?
No, I'm broke.
Okay, good. All right, well, that's not good, but that's good. You have a solid answer to that.
No, I'm I mean, I want to, but I can't afford to do that right now. That could be a topic for some other time.
Okay, you're talking about how broke Cody is?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But
I'm feeling that right now.
yeah, by the way, how is well, okay, I do want to actually come back to hardware I/O stuff in a moment, but how is it not receiving shill checks from Google anymore? And you don't get all those like super expensive piles of free review units that all tech journalists get.
Oh, well, my checks from Google are still ongoing. I can't say more than that due to legal reasons, but they have me on retainer.
Good times. For anyone who missed it, Corbin is now an HTG boy.
Yes, I've been at How to Geek for 3 days, and it's good. Again, only 3 days, but so far so good. I haven't messed up yet.
I keep up that optimism.
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway, so the other hardware question for I/O: do you think they would announce anything else? So obvious examples being Google Wi-Fi,
Right.
or a new Chromecast with Google TV. Which I'm just gonna say it now. Look, Google, I spent like 3 years saying you need to make a dongle that runs Android TV, but
You
it's
did.
I
was there.
Yeah.
I was there. I remember.
Here's the thing. I was right. I'm not saying Google listened to me. I'm not taking credit for it. Nothing like that. Just arguing. And I think history has shown I kind of had a point here. Now take my other point. Change the name of that stupid product.
It's so bad.
Chromecast with Google TV sucks as a name. It is a terrible name. And I'm just going to point this out. Do you really want to see a bunch of articles that say Chromecast with Google TV second edition? That is so many syllables. Imagine trying to order this thing through Amazon Alexa. I mean, you'll fail for other reasons, but you also would fail just because it's going to get confused with that many syllables.
It's so terrible because also like the Chromecast name itself is awful.
It is.
But there's like because like the entire point was on the original Chromecast. The main use case was that you're gonna cast your Chrome tabs to your TV, but then apps added native support, and no one has ever done that ever in like the past 5 years. So. That name is terrible, and like they tried to change it to Google Cast, which is better.
Well, that's the name of the protocol. It's not the name of the
right. They had it like as the marketing name, not for the devices, but like for everything else.
Yeah,
that used Google, and then they switched back. So now when you buy a Sony speaker, it says it has Chromecast and not Google Play. But
Google Cast, you mean? But yeah.
No,
that's a valid point, and they do need to fix that because that is, or they need to choose something clearly. To be fair, though, I think regular consumers, it is actually good to just stick with one name.
Yeah, I mean, they know what it is now, so it's kind of difficult to go back. I like Austin said, Chromecast with Google TV Series A. Man, given how cheaply that thing was put together, I don't want to see an A of that.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be rough. That is like what I would want to see. That's what I could see them making is a better one that they sell for slightly more money. Like, I think the issue that keeps popping up with the current one is, number one, it doesn't support AV1, which is an issue, but also it just has no storage. And so I feel like at the very least, pump out another one that has like 64 gigs of storage or something. You know, that can be like the Nvidia Shield for everyone that doesn't want to play games. And then just keep the current one. That's what I would do if I was Google.
Yeah.
Ideally, if you're gonna charge more, put in a newer chip. But storage seems to be like the issue that like normal people have with this thing, versus a thing like AV1 where like it kind of sort of matters, but like everyone's gonna keep encoding their video in H.264 for the next 10 years, so it's not a big deal now.
Well, okay, I agree storage is one of the biggest complaints. I think RAM has also proven to be at least a little bit of an issue. And in general, performance. It's not always a problem, but I've heard a lot of people say that they have started seeing more and more lag. So just a generally faster chip. And by the time you're doing all of this stuff, I hate saying this, but just tack on like 10, 20 bucks, put in like legitimately good specs, like, mid-range phone specs, or even a budget phone spec, and just like make this an actual good product.
Snapdragon 888.
Well, I'm kind of joking here, but actually not. What if they stuck in a tensor chip?
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably have more of those around the place. I mean, that's what Apple does, right? They just have their A15, and then they stick that in literally every device they can.
Pretty much. I mean, there was a point in history where I think it was like the chip in the iPad 2 or something. They ended up having that same chip in like 12 different products.
Yeah.
And like it was all over the place. And eventually at one point, which by the way, that's why that particular model of iPad was supported way longer than a whole lot of other things should have been. But yeah, they very very easily could start looking at more and more products where they can just stuff. It's probably a little too early to stick the tensor chip into everything, but I mean, maybe. Yeah. And I don't know what they would use all that power for. It's not like they need a bunch of AI stuff on the TV side, but I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I mean, with the privacy sandbox thing, that is basically a local AI. So
valid.
And they are pushing advertising. That's the thing that people don't like about Google TV. So I could see it. It would be a while though. Austin brought up, please make a native hub with storage, Google. That might be another IO hardware announcement. I think Cody, you mentioned this like for 5 seconds earlier, a new like Nest Hub or new smart display thing. I could, because there is a bunch of work going into Android 13 to make it like into something that could just be dumped onto a Nest Hub and call it a day. So I think that might be something. If it shows up this year, it shows up in October, because I think Google usually keeps the smart home stuff in that slot anyway. That's what gets shown off like when they're done talking about the new Pixel. And also we haven't seen anything hardware related to that yet. Like no FCC documents or anything.
Yeah.
Or really leaks at all. Just the stuff that's going to Android 13.
Yeah.
which that itself won't be done until August, probably.
Yeah, which, by the way, is a quick aside. I am fairly confident that a big chunk of the keynote is going to be dedicated to showing the stuff that we all have seen because we're paying attention to the news cycle for Android 13. I bet they're going to rehash all the stuff that we have already read about.
Right. Or, well, I mean, that's still useful because then you know what it's for.
Yeah. But I am a little... part of me does worry about this, and I was thinking about it last night. Some IOs, honestly, have been really good because they've announced a whole lot of new stuff and really exciting stuff. I also remember being at an IO where they spent 20 minutes re-announcing a whole lot of stuff that had happened in Google Plus over the last, like, 4 to 6 months. And then, as soon as they finished with that segment, they started talking about the stuff about Android Wear that they had already announced and done over the last 4 to 6 months. And I remember sitting next to Artem and saying, seriously, is this meant to be a break for the journalists? Because they're not saying anything new here.
Right. It's like when Apple does a press conference and they front load it with like 10 minutes of Apple TV stuff. It's like, all right, this is when the journalists go like take a bathroom break really quick.
Yeah. Which it also, I'm kind of wondering if we're going to get that kind of thing with Google TV this year. Because I've heard Google's trying to make a lot of contract stuff happen. Like maybe they're going to take that step and push really hard to do the whole, hey, we're like for real. We want to hype it up. We want to tell people about neat producty stuff instead of just developer-y stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I kind of need to go, and also my back kind of hurts from sitting in this chair for this long without moving. So I think I'm gonna go.
All right. You're bailing a little earlier than I was. I was actually just about to say I was about to do a 15-minute warning roughly because I'm gonna take off at 4:30 my time, which is about 20 minutes from now. So yeah.
I see.
Yeah, you take off early, you slacker.
I will. I'll slack off and go to the grocery store to buy everything I need to survive because I needed to do that this past weekend. I just didn't get to it.
It is what it is.
I know. That's the thing about working full time. They don't tell you is turns out less time to do other tasks you have to do to, be functional.
Actually, the real pain of it is, and I'll just say, working full time on a set schedule. That's the one that hurts. I used to love working full time where I just picked the hours I worked. Like working from home doing contracting work was beautiful because like literally I could just say, hey, you know what? This is the time that it's convenient to go to the DMV. Cool. I will just do.
Oh yeah.
I'll do a few hours extra tonight, and I made up for it. Like no one cares.
Yeah. That is the one big advantage to freelance. Is like I can be like, all right, I'm gonna go get my hair cut at 1:30 in the afternoon, right? When no one's around, it's great. Or I'll go to the grocery store at noon.
Yep.
When all those other people are at work.
Yeah.
But now I am all those other people.
Well, and I liked it because I was a night owl. I've always been kind of a night owl. So yeah, I would go out jogging at night, living in Vegas. That was kind of the best time to do it. And then come back and just work for several hours, usually till like sunrise. I could run to the grocery store in the middle of this. There's nobody there. Like, it was awesome. That was the best way to do it. And then sleep through the hottest part of the day. Like, that was perfect. The world was happy with this strategy.
Now I am those other people. But I can actually get money to buy things now.
Yeah, I missed that part.
Well, I mean, not right now, because it's summer, so my power bills are going through the roof just to ensure I'm not sweating through all my clothes sitting still at a computer.
Yeah, speaking of, my office is actually pretty freaking toasty. I'm nervous.
Yeah, I don't like this part of being an adult. Okay, I'm gonna go now.
All right, man. Later. Catch you soon somewhere.
Bye.
All right. Let's see. So yeah, it is basic 15-minute warning stuff. My reason, I'll let you guys know. And if anyone has any topics, because I'll tell you, I looked for topics this week and I came up really, really short on ideas. But if anyone has any topics to round out the last few minutes, go ahead and let me know. But my reasoning is, I want to rush and do some review photos. I have something that apparently maybe I should not have mentioned in recent history. I don't know whether or not it is under embargo or not, but I have review photos I need to do for 2 different products. The other thing I actually wrote about, let's pull this up real quick. The most exciting product you've ever possibly seen, like so exciting you didn't even know that you needed a review of it, the air purifier that Wise just came out with. Yes, I'm reviewing an air purifier. It's exciting stuff, right? But yeah, I want to get a few review photos of this in 2 different spots, and while there is daylight coming through the tiny little window of my office, and this is the cleanest floor, well, cleanest and nicest looking carpet that I have in the house, this is where one of the review photos is going to be. So yeah, I'm gonna be shooting this thing. I'll fix this web browser position. I kind of can. There we go. That's a little better. So yeah, that's one of the products that I'm going to be reviewing. The other one, I may not be able to talk about till next week, so I won't try to talk about that. But it's sunny, so I want to get outside. I think you can guess. Yeah, Austin, I wish that was mine. I really wish that was mine. But no, thanks to Wise for at least providing some lifestyle images that we could use. Let's see, what's happening next week with IO and the RambleCast normal time? Oh, that's a great question. I haven't got an effing clue. Not gonna lie, I'm probably going to be on the hook to do some coverage with AP. So there's a fair chance that it'll be pushed to Thursday, I think, maybe. The weather's so bad the rest of the week too. Yeah, I don't know for sure. I'm reluctant to make any hard predictions on this, but yeah, it may be pushed to Thursday, or we might jump it to Tuesday. I kind of doubt it, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense when it, like, I don't want to do it the day before IO. That would be weird. It doesn't track to do this stream a day before IO when there's just not that much else to say, unless there are, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'll try to talk to Corbin about bumping it to Thursday, because that'll just fit so much better. Unless, well, I don't know. I'll have to see. I'm trying to think how rough that scheduling could be. I don't know why I didn't think about how IO was going to affect RambleCast next week. But Austin, great question. I will have to think on that one. Let's see. Austin asking, is it still not official? Let me just check, because I honestly don't know. Let's see. I think this company would sell it. Okay, I'm searching. I don't see it listed. Okay, so said mystery product that any sane person can already guess because it's been leaked into absurdity, but I can't talk about it. Yeah, I don't see it listed on a particular website. Oh, I guess I should look at the company's website and just see if they already have it on there. Let's see. Yeah, they don't have it either. So yeah, it hasn't been announced yet. Well, that's... I only alluded to it before. I'm pretty sure he didn't name it, so I'm not totally violating any embargo agreements. Let's see. So yeah, Diablo, how do you feel about it? Why is this practice of security disclosure? Do you think it has a, or do you think it was a one-time thing, or they would do it again? I'm not sure about the second part there. Oh, wait, was this the spying thing? I don't remember too much about this. I know there was some controversy with Wise. Oops. As I misspelled privacy on the stream. That was with their cameras, wasn't it? Let's see. Yeah, that's, I think, just with their cameras. So, since this has no camera, it is literally just a schedule. Like, the most you can do with this is schedule when it comes on and off, and it reads your air quality. Like, who cares? Nobody's going to snoop at your air quality. So, or even if they do, like, what are they going to find out? It's pretty insignificant. So, I'm not too worried about that. And as long as it's not leaving, like, some ports open that could then be exploited for, like, network attacks, I'm not too worried. So yeah, I think their security issues are fine with this one. I'm not gonna turn it into a Wise is a bad company just because of other things that they have done. They know you live in a bad environment. I'll tell you, when wildfires happen, yeah, the wildfires last year were so bad here. There were people who were taking box fans, you know, those giant, huge, like, square fans that are just kind of thin and always in some sort of, like, white metal case. People were taking box fans and just taping like air conditioning filters in front of them, and within like 6 hours those AC filters would just be blackened, like through and through. They were just solid black. And yeah, that's how bad it was here. It was bleak times. So I'm not optimistic about this summer, but unfortunately, because the weather, or sorry, not the weather, but unfortunately, because, well, I say unfortunately, but because they're sending this air purifier at this time of year, we have super fresh air right now, so I won't really have any idea how well it handles like air quality, but at least I can test the basics and say yes or no. Is this a quiet thing? Does it do the things that it promises that it will do? Like, this is not going to be the most in-depth review. And unfortunately, I don't have like I say unfortunately, but who wants this? Unfortunately, I don't have a chamber where I can do like air quality testing. Diablo, I was literally thinking about making that joke, but I'm not going to. But hey, you never know what the air quality index thing is capable of testing. Could always pick up smoking. I actually kind of joked in my head about taking this to a smoker's place, but then I thought, I don't want to sit around a smoker. Screw that noise. somewhat ironically, a friend of mine just quit smoking last year. And as happy as I was about that, it now kind of blows one review. Or blows an opportunity with a review. So, it is what it is. But hey, yeah, at least it'll be something to test, and believe me, it's not the strongest air purifier, but anything will be helpful come wildfire season. Because Oregon last year burned like crazy, and I do not, well, the last 2 years, it has burned like crazy, and I'd really like to avoid having to sit through that again this year. So, yeah. And then the other thing, well, yeah, I can't say anything else about that. So, unfortunately, I don't get to keep the other thing for a while. Or, I don't get to keep it for very long. The Wise Air Purifier, I believe, actually stays with me, though I haven't confirmed that yet. Let's see. So, yeah. But seeing as how Sun will be streaming through this window fairly shortly, that I currently have blocked off, yeah, it'll make for some good quick review photos against, ironically, against a wall. A wall which is, you're not actually supposed to run this thing very close to walls or obstructions. And that's exactly how all of my review pictures are going to be, is with this thing close to walls and other obstructions. But hey, I'll make a point of captioning and saying, you should not do this. Do as I say, not as I do. So let's see. Okay, nothing else has been mentioned in the RambleCast chat room, and we're pretty much closing in on the 4:30 timeline. I will quickly note, just going into the general chat where Austin earlier linked to the Google acquires the micro LED startup Raxium, which seriously, that name just gives me cringe. I can't think of, because of Nexium, that cult company. Diablo can see the comments now. Cody did not use it. I mean, it's gonna feel like I didn't. That's what's unfair about some reviews. It's like DJI sent me a drone once when it was just like the rainiest, crappiest time of year, and they seem to release their drones during rainy, crappy times of year. So yeah, every single time I get it, it's like, cool, I now get to try to find a time when the weather doesn't suck in order to get outside. Kind of like now. And yeah, Wise is sending this during like the single best time of year for air quality, when it's raining all the time. I mean, seriously. Let's pull this up, zoom it in properly. I mean, look at that weather. Look at that weather right there. Wednesday rain. Which, that's today, by the way. I'm not sure what's going on, but it thinks today is going to be raining, which also concerns me because when I last looked out the window, it was sunny and nice. But tomorrow rain, Friday intermittent rain, Saturday intermittent rain, Sunday looks like stormy or something. Same with Monday. Like, this whole rest of the week is going to be crap. So, yeah. This is like the cleanest air quality. You can't ask for nicer air quality than what we're about to get. Let's see, the air quality index for, can I see, pulling up my own. Let's see, can I do this without doxing myself? Yay, I can. Okay, so there's our air quality index here right now. Our AQI is 13. AQI of 13. Last summer, we actually tipped up over 200, I believe. 13, you almost can't get better than this. Like, short of going to the rainforests in Brazil 30 years ago, before all the crazy logging had started, like, that's the only place where you were gonna find like a legitimately better AQI. So yeah, it's gonna make an air purifier kind of hard to test, but so be it. I mean, realistically, the test of an air purifier in terms of air, like what it can do to the air, has way less to do than with the actual physical air purifier and way more to do with the filters. So strictly speaking, that's a filter issue. As I see it, I'm testing the actual unit more than the filter, right, which is kind of a cop out, I admit it, but it's the best I've got. So yeah, anyway, hey, it is what it is. I'll make it work. And what was I gonna say? I don't remember what I was gonna say, so I'm not gonna say it. But yeah, so where was it? Yeah, so the Google acquiring Raxium, which that name, just in my head I'm hearing Nexium, which was that crazy cult that a bunch of celebrities kind of got roped into, and I guess they got a bunch of models wrapped up into it too. Anyway, obviously different things, but just somehow the names little too similar. But so to Austin's comment earlier, let's see, where is it? To quote you, you said, I really doubt Google would want to get into component manufacturing, but with the chip shortage, I guess getting space for micro LED production is probably really hard. You know, here's the thing. Google is one of those companies that just keeps getting bigger and branching out in more and more ways. I tend to agree. I don't think they want to get into like straight up manufacturing, but maybe they're seeing this as one of those things where it is a good investment long term. This is probably a product or component that they're going to continue to use in a lot of stuff. If that's the case, they might be looking at this and just saying, we're going to use it, we may as well just make it. And who knows, maybe they're acquiring a lot of good talent in the process, and those people are also possibly going to warrant other component manufacturing, or maybe they're going to build on this and Google could benefit from getting into component manufacturing. There's really no reason that they can't as a company. It's just not their go-to thing. It won't be their big money maker, but I could see this becoming a valid thing if they're getting in on kind of ahead of the game with this. So I'm not fully prepared to rule out that possibility that they're into it. They might want to do this as a thing. Imagine the Nest Hub has a micro LED within the LED. Nice. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of possibilities for using micro LED across a lot of their products. So especially, well, I don't know enough about micro LED, so I don't want to predict too much, but I'm feeling like that could become a popular future for the watches, of course. More than that, a lot of their just smart home products, because if they can make this stuff in any way cheaper or comparable to what they could get the components for from somewhere else, it makes sense to do this and just put out a product that it's costing them the same amount of money, let's say, but it's a better screen than what you're going to find from Amazon, or when Apple eventually does a screen version of their smart speakers. Which, by the way, consider that. Apple still has not done a screen version of their damn it, what are they called? Not AirPods. Oh my god, why am I suddenly completely blanking on the name of it? Their really, really dumb speaker name. HomePod. Yeah. So they haven't done one with a screen yet. Or have they? Wait, no, that's not a screen. So I mean, that's an iPad. You'd think that they would just face the facts and do a screen version of this. But Google has something that does this. They have Amazon obviously has this. I guess Microsoft doesn't, but Microsoft barely has a smart speakers thing anyway. Let's see. Micro LED still needs a lot of work. It's also made on wafers, so it has a size limit for the current fabrication. Yeah, but a lot of this stuff, this is 1 to 2 generations away, kind of a thing, and it's a pretty safe path from what I understand of it. It's a fairly safe path to assume that it's going to become a product, or rather, it's going to be a successful path. Let's see. Okay, sorry, just reading that comment. But yeah, anyway, so I'm kind of surprised Apple hasn't done a smart thing with a screen yet, because let's be honest, all they really need to do is stick an old iPad onto a base, take out the battery, and make a slightly nicer interface than what the iPad would already offer. And lo and behold, you have something that's exactly what you want. Like, and they could sell that for $250 for sure, easy. Maybe even 300. People would buy that. It doesn't matter that Google's selling really good versions of this thing for like what, 120? Apple would be able to sell it for 200 easy, probably 300. So yeah, I'm really kind of surprised Apple hasn't jumped on this yet. Which, as another quick thought, this is something that occurred to me, I think last night, but it could have been, I don't know. This hit me somewhere in the last day. Apple really hasn't been talking up Siri for a long time. It seems like they are not very focused on Siri. Meanwhile, every Google I/O, there is invariably like a good 20% of it dedicated to just saying, hey, we know you love Google Assistant. Guess what's coming in the next 6 months? Let's show you. As yeah, they show off. They spend a ton of time talking about Google Assistant and all the stuff that's coming in the next several months. And like, it is a non-stop stream of upcoming features and highlights and stuff like that. Apple avoids talking about Siri. I mean, they'll mention it. They love to still use the name on things, but they're not pushing Siri as being that smart of a thing. I mean, even Amazon seems to care more about talking about Alexa than Apple talks about Siri. Which kind of leaves me thinking that Siri is not getting a lot of attention and probably going to be in trouble if they don't do something with it soon. That being said, let's be honest, Apple also probably doesn't care because they still have iMessage lock-in. But that's not going to last a whole lot longer, I think. Obviously, it'll last another couple of years, but I think they are stretching the limits of how long lock-in is going to work on people. And they are going to have to start bringing the technology and product line up to par. Let's see. Diablo, they can really just take an iPad or mini iPad and staple it to a HomePod. I mean, yeah, absolutely. There is no question. Put a good speaker on the back of an iPad, and not even a modern iPad. It can be legitimately like running a very old processor, and it would be perfectly good. Knowing them, of course, they're going to stick something a little more modern in it. That way they can talk up the fact that it'll have, I already forgot the name of it again, but that thing that, that technology that they're hyping up where it follows you in a camera frame so you can do video chat, and it, like, the camera keeps your face center stage. That's the name of it. I'm sure they would put that in there. But, you know, outside of the obvious, they're perfectly comfortable shipping something that's going to be a bit older, a bit lower spec stuff, but it'll still look good. No one's going to care. I wouldn't fault them for it. They may as well put in not the highest quality screen, not the highest quality this, not the highest quality that. As long as you put in good speakers, people love it. Which actually kind of makes you wonder why the HomePod Mini is a thing and not an actual, like, not their original HomePod. But hey, it is what it is. Because I think the original HomePod was a way better speaker, if I recall. I'm assuming the HomePod Mini is not that special. I'm guessing, I don't know, but it's hard to imagine it's that good. But hey, it is what it is. Okay, so let's see. It's 10 minutes past my proposed ending time and well past the 15-minute deadline. So I'd say I've kept the world from exploding at least one more week. So I'm gonna wrap as I suddenly can't speak for a second. Wow, that's the world trying to yell at me. This weekend, let's see. Oh, David, you were shocked to see them kill the original HomePod? Honestly, me too. Like, legitimately very, very surprised for that. Okay, so this weekend is evidently continuing Control, because who knew? I wasn't at the end. Yeah. Or maybe I am. I don't really know for sure, but I'll figure it out. I need to actually, like, check some walkthroughs and figure out what else I need to do or have to do, or whether I'm actually at the end this time. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, so I think this weekend probably going to be Control for one night. Maybe both. We'll see what happens. And I don't know what the second night will be, but if not Control, let me phrase it that way. If not Control, it may be one of the it may just become one of those nights where I'll explore a whole bunch of different things. Or I might do some photo edits. I actually should probably have, hopefully a lot of, I can't show photos for one of those things, so I can't do edits on them. Okay, so it'll possibly be photo edits for the Wise air purifier. Most exciting products of the world. Yay. I guess I should go with that side. Super exciting product. Yay. That could be a YouTube thumbnail. Man, that was a scary smile. Anyway, so yeah, so we'll see. I am undecided on a lot of stuff, but there should be stuff for this weekend, because again, when you have when you have weather looking like this, let's be honest, there's Saturday and Sunday I'm probably not going to get to do a whole lot, so I'll probably be hanging out indoors quite a bit, and assuming I'm not doing any other work, that's most likely what's going to be, that'll most likely be the plan. So yeah, anyway, I will try to let you guys know in the game stream channel when that time comes, or at least Oops. Didn't need to tap that again. But yeah, when I get closer, I'll try to let you know. So, with that, thanks everyone for joining, coming, hanging out, being part of the stream. I will see you again, hopefully this weekend. I hope everyone has an excellent time. Oh, and by the way, of course, as usual, if you'd like to help support the podcast, as David and Diablo have been doing with Patreon all this time, thank you guys. You can go down to the description. Yeah, that's what it's called. There are links down there for Streamlabs, Patreon, and Cash App, whatever, however we call that. Anything would be helpful, welcome, and appreciated. But as always, not a necessity. Thank you all for coming, hanging out. I will see you all soon in Discord. And with that, good night, everybody.